Hello and welcome back to my channel. Welcome if this is your first time here, and welcome back if you are a regular watcher. What are we going to do today? Very often in my legal English classes, I get students who say, how do I say this? Or they might say something and they make a mistake. So today we're going to go through some of these together, and stick around until the end, because at the end we're going to do a quiz where we collect all of these mistakes and you can correct them. So you can see how many you get correct, and hopefully through doing that you're going to improve your legal English. So let's get started. So the first one, an important one these days, is how do I pronounce this word? Is it AI or is it EA or is it EI? So the answer is we pronounce it AI, artificial intelligence. We pronounce the letters separately. It's not like all together. So the correct pronunciation is AI. And the incorrect way would be saying EA. So very often Italian speakers or French speakers might say EA. So make sure you pronounce it correctly. It's AI. Next one, number 2. How do I pronounce this word? I don't know if you know what this is, this word, but this word basically means the party who is in a lease. We have this party who is the one who owns the property, who then leases the property to a lessee. So the answer is lessor. A tip is to stress the first syllable. A lessor grants a lease and a lessee receives it. So, for example, if you work in a company, maybe as an in-house lawyer, and you're talking about the office premises that you lease from a company, in that situation, you would be the lessee and the company that owns the premises would be the lessor. So a tip is it's not lessor or lessor, because you might think that with a commercial lease, the parties would be lessee and lessor, but that's not the correct pronunciation. We have lessee and we have lessor. All right, let's move on. Those are the 2 pronunciation corrections. We're going to move on to now some phrases and things like that. All right, number 3. How do I say that we will take financial responsibility for a repair? So how would you say this? Do you know how you would say this? You would say, we will cover the cost of the repair. We will cover the cost of the repair. You can also say, for example, you might find this in a contract. We will bear the cost. We will bear the cost. To bear something means to take the responsibility of it. So we will bear the cost of the repair. You can also say company X, like if that's you, company X, will be charged for the repair. Or you could, that's a passive voice sentence. You could also say company Y will charge company X for any repair. Obviously, in that situation, if you say company Y will charge company X, you get the feeling that company Y will actually pay for the repair, and then afterwards they're going to send a bill to company X. Whereas if you say we cover the cost or we will bear the cost, it means automatically you will pay for it. You do not want to say we will take charge of the repair. Take charge of something, it's not a common way to say it. It's really incorrect in English. Let's move on. Number 4. How do I refer to someone in my team who reports to me? For example, if you're a legal director, if you're a partner, if you're a managing partner in a firm, you will have people who work under you, to put it in a very informal way. So in terms of the hierarchy, you're at the top. Good for you. And then you've got members of staff, employees or consultants who are essentially beneath you. So how would you refer to those people? Let's have a look. What do you think? You would say a member of my team or someone on my team. So maybe there could be some ambiguity with this, like it might not be explicit that you are in charge of the team, but the way that you say it and the context matters here. So of course, you know, if you're speaking to someone that knows that you're the legal director and you say, oh, someone on my team came to see me, or I had to speak to someone on my team, of course, we then know that you are talking about someone who you are in charge of. If you're speaking to someone that you don't know and you want to convey the fact that you spoke to someone who was informally, I'm going to say, beneath you, below you in the hierarchy, if you really want to be very explicit, you might say something like, oh, yes, you know, I'm the legal director. I've got a team of 4 lawyers who I manage. And yes, today somebody came to speak to me about blah, blah, blah. So you might have to clarify it. Of course, also colleague is also possible, but a colleague doesn't show hierarchy. Colleague just means someone that you work with. We usually use it to mean like a work colleague, someone who you work with. But sometimes it's even used to refer to somebody who you don't explicitly work with in the company, in the law firm, but rather a peer. That means somebody who works in the same area as you. For example, I'm an independent professional. I don't have colleagues in the sense that somebody working in a company would have colleagues. However, sometimes I refer to my fellow legal English teachers as colleagues because we work in the same area. So the important thing to say is you don't want to refer to someone as below you or beneath you if you want to be talking in a professional and formal way. Of course, it can get the message across, but it's not the best way to say it. Let's move on. Number 5. How do I describe moving part of a business to another place or group company, like another part of the company? If you work in a large company and there's some very big transformation happening, what do you think about this? So the answer is you could say the business is relocating the operations if you're talking about physically moving. You could also say we're transferring these operations to another group company or to another part of the company. If you're talking about you've got a big company that has various different departments and it's got a complex structure, that the operations are being transferred to another part. Another way to say it, move premises. This is another way of saying to move the physical location. Premises, note that it's always plural. Premises refers to the office, business location. So if you're saying we're moving the office from here to here, you can say we're moving premises. And if you're talking about, rather than the physical location, you're talking about the legal structure, the structure of the company, like the second option that's here in this question. You can also talk about restructuring. So restructure is a bit of a broader concept because it's referring to a broader concept in the sense that it could refer to a number of legal changes. So, for example, it could mean that there's a change in the management, there's a change in the legal structure, like you're not a limited liability partnership anymore, you're changing to a different company structure. Maybe there's been a merger, so 2 companies becoming one, or an acquisition. One company has been purchased by another company. And so there needs to be some changes with the employees. So in that situation, you talk about a restructuring happening. Note that you do not say move premise if you're talking about the physical location. As I mentioned earlier, premises is always plural. You don't want to say premise. Absolutely not. So let's move on. The next point is, how do I say when a law starts to apply? There's this law, you know that there's this law, it's been agreed upon, and but it's not essentially working right now. It's not applying to you. So what would you say in that situation? You would say the law comes into force. The law comes into force next year. The law comes into force next month. The law hasn't entered into force yet. It's coming into force next year. So you can also say becomes effective on a particular date, like, oh, this law isn't currently in force. It's going to be effective in January. But be careful. You don't want to say it starts to be effective or it becomes effective law. These are not really common collocations. Of course, we get it. We understand what you mean, but they're not the best way to say it. All right. Next one, we're on to number 7. How do I say that we want to end a contract? So you probably know this. Hopefully you know it. If you don't worry. You're going to learn it in a minute. You want to end a contract. You're in a contract currently, and you don't want to be in that contract anymore. How would you say it? You say, we want to terminate the contract. We want to terminate the contract. That's the official way to say it. There's usually a clause inside the contract that deals with termination, the ending of a contract. And you could also say, oh, we want to bring the agreement to an end, but it's not the most natural way to say it. Terminate is the standard verb. So yes, if you're speaking, you could say, we want to bring this contract to an end. It's not currently working for us. Yes, maybe you might find some business people talking in that way. You, as a lawyer, really should be using terminate. You don't want to say, we want to resign the contract or we want to cancel the contract. If you say that, again, people hopefully maybe will understand what you mean, but they might struggle to understand what you mean. Resign is when you are an employee and you decide that you want to leave your job, and so you officially give notice or you start the process to end your employment contract with the company. So you would say, I'm resigning from my position. And cancel the contract. It's really not very common. Let's move on. What do we call the agreement signed to resolve a dispute? What do we call the agreement which is signed to resolve a dispute? Do you know this? What do I mean by this? What do I mean by this? Imagine you're in a dispute, you're in a conflict, or your client is, and maybe there's pending litigation. Maybe one of the parties wants to litigate, they want to go to court, but you try to negotiate and resolve the situation, resolve the dispute amicably outside of court. You negotiate and you sign an agreement that sets out the terms and conditions of this resolution. So what do we call it? We call it a settlement agreement. A settlement agreement. You settle the dispute. You reach a settlement. So here's my tip. I said it before it even came up. The parties reach a settlement, which means that you come to an agreement on the terms which constitute the solution. So you reach a settlement, meaning that you're in agreement on how to resolve the dispute, probably through negotiations or mediation. And then you sign a settlement agreement, which is the document that sets out those terms and conditions. What do you not want to say? Transaction. I don't hear this very often, but sometimes I do. And a transaction, you don't sign a transaction now to resolve a dispute. A transaction means like a deal, but more in the sense of buying and selling things. For example, a company that sells goods might be involved in cross-border transactions, meaning that they sell goods in countries abroad. Here we have the next one. How do I say that we must leave the premises in a good way? Coming back to that word premises, remember, what does it mean? It means like an office. So how would you say, we have to leave it in a good way. We have to make sure that the walls are painted. We have to make sure that any windows are not broken. So how would we say that? You would say we need to leave the premises in good condition or in a good state. Also, when you're reviewing a lease contract, you might find the words in a good state of repair, which means like in a good state. You might find that that's a bit of an ambiguous term, and so you would probably specify exactly like, what does that mean? What are we talking about here? Is good condition, that the walls are painted? Does like marks on the wall constitute like bad condition, constitute a bad state? Actually, it's probably good practice to define exactly what this means, because it can be the cause of many disputes. So you don't want to say in a good way. In a good way doesn't sound very good. It doesn't sound very professional. It's simply not a good way. It's not a good way to say it. So let's move on. We're on to number 10. How do I say that someone's claim is totally false? How would you say that? It's totally false. Like, of course, I kind of understand what you mean here, but it doesn't sound very professional. So let's have a look. The answer is the claim is wholly unfounded. The claim is unfounded. It's there's no grounds to this claim. You can also say without any merit. That's another option. And what does that mean? It means without evidence, or it's not supported by any law. So that it's basically, it would not stand up in court, even though, you're making a claim, there's zero evidence, or there's very little evidence, and basically you're gonna lose. If your claim is without any merit, you're not gonna win that case, hopefully. You don't want to say, oh, it's totally wrong, it's totally false, it's wrong. You can say it. People understand what you mean. It doesn't sound very lawyerly, doesn't sound very, you're not using the correct legal English. All right, let's move on. I think we've got the quiz next. Hoo. It's quiz time. So I'm going to go through questions. It's like a review of what we've looked at here. So what you can do is you can pause the video after each question if you like, and you can pronounce the word, or you can say the answer out loud. Or, if you're like on the train watching this, or you're in your office and you should be doing work, don't say it out loud. You might want to subtly write down your answers. So, shall we go? Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. What's the first question? How do you pronounce? Next one. How do you pronounce? Difficult. Not difficult if you've been listening. If you skip to the end for the quiz and now you're wishing that you didn't, you'll have to go back and watch the whole video. Sorry about that. All right, next one. Correct these phrases. Number 1. Now, this number 1 has got 2 corrections that you need to make. The law starts working next year, which means that we need to take charge of any repairs. Number 2, I spoke to the person below me. Number 3, the company operations are moving to a new place. The company operations are moving to a new place. Next question. Number 4, this part of the company is changing in legal structure. This part of the company is changing in legal structure. It's moving to a new part of the company. Number 5, we don't want to end the contract. We don't want to end the contract. Number 6, we hope that following mediation, we will sign a transaction. We hope that following mediation, we will sign a transaction. Number 7, according to the contract, we must leave the office in a good way. According to the contract, we must leave the office in a good way. Number 8, he claims we breached the contract, but this is totally wrong. He claims that we breached the contract, but this is totally wrong. Oh, that's it. Finished. There's 10 questions here, but obviously 8 of them are correct these phrases, and the first 2 are the pronunciation. All right. Are you ready for the answers? Have you got your answers written down? Have you said them out loud? Let's have a look. So, how do you pronounce AI? AI. Okay. How do you pronounce this? Lessor. Lessor. Next one, correct these phrases. Now, there might be more than one answer to these, depending on how you construct your sentence, but let's have a look at some possible answers. The law comes into force next year, which means that we will be charged for, or we will bear the cost of, any repairs. Number 2, I spoke to my colleague or a member of my team, if you want to get that sense of somebody being below you. Number 3, the company operations are relocating or moving to a new premises. Next one, number 4, this part of the company is restructuring or it's undergoing a restructure. Number 5, we don't want to terminate the contract. Sorry, it should say. I've made a little error there myself. I've made a little typo. We don't want to terminate the contract. We hope that following mediation, we will sign a settlement agreement. We hope that following mediation, we will sign a settlement agreement, not a transaction, okay? Number 7, according to the contract, we must leave the office in a good state or in good condition. Number 8, the final one, he claims we breached the contract, but this is unfounded, or it's without merit. How did you do? Did you get them all correct, like a very good, attentive lawyer that you hopefully are? Let me know in the comments below. What was your score? Did any of these surprise you? Also, if you got some incorrect, you can say each of those words again to practice your pronunciation, and you can try to correct these sentences without looking. You can go back to the screen where you saw all of the incorrect phrases, and you can try again to try to correct them without looking at the answers. So that's basically the end of this video. Which phrase will you use this week? Do you use any of these phrases? Are you going to use any of these phrases in your work? So you can write your own example sentence in the comments and save this video for a review if you need to review your legal English from time to time. Also, there's a handout of these slides available on my website. I'll put the link in the comment section pinned below. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.